All right, let's go to Zimbabwe now, where there was much confusion when reports emerged that the party's Sengezo Tshabangu has recalled 15 MPs. Now, he says they've ceased to be members of the party and should be expelled from the House. Now, the 15 opposition MPs in the country have reportedly filed a court appeal saying they were tricked into losing their parliamentary seats. And of course, there's concerns that this particular letter that has been written to the Speaker might be fake. So let's get more details now and understand exactly what's going on here. Chamisa is the Citizen Coalition for Change leader and joins us live now. Thank you so much for your time. What's going on?
Well, I must say that a very tragic development in the politics of Zimbabwe. The people of Zimbabwe voted overwhelmingly for change, and you know that there was an emphatic voice for change in a flawed election that we recently had in Zimbabwe. And what has been happening is that we have not been able to resolve that stalemate. There is a political crisis, a political stalemate. The people voted for change, but the result that was declared was clearly not in line or aligned to what the people voted for. But as if that was not enough, there's been a new and fresh blow on the legitimacy crisis, particularly in Parliament, where ZANU-PF has engineered an unknown somebody to go and write a letter to Parliament to withdraw CCC members of Parliament. I'm the leader of CCC. We have our members of Parliament. We have our party. We are not aware of this member, but this member seems to be from or working with ZANU-PF to withdraw our members of Parliament. The Speaker did not pay regard to our written communication we had written to him. He chose to unilaterally follow the ZANU-PF aligned person who just wrote a letter to say we have withdrawn about 21 MPs or so. And there's been a big issue within the context of our conversations and our politics. And we have written to the Speaker of Parliament to say this must be corrected and this anomaly must be corrected. If it is not corrected, it will plunge the country into deeper political crisis. And of course, it will emphasize the problem of legitimacy and the problem of contestation arising out of disputed and flawed elections.
So are you saying you do not know this person quoted as Sengezo Tshabangu?
No, we don't know that person. That person is not in our structures. We don't even have that person as an office holder. In any event, we don't have the office that he claims to be existing in the CCC. The CCC is a new kid on the block. We've done very well, as you know, under difficult circumstances. Even in a disputed and flawed election, we've managed to secure almost 104 members of Parliament. In fact, we had the majority, had it not been for the kind of challenges that we encountered, which problems were noted and acknowledged by SADC, the Observer Mission, by AU, by all the Observer Missions that were in Zimbabwe, including Commonwealth and COMESA.
Some say, though, that as they watch these particular developments, they say the party, what is happening now is because the party does not seem to have a constitution nor have its house in order. How do you respond?
That's preposterous and ridiculous. It's said by people who do not understand what the CCC is. The CCC is a citizen movement. We have a constitution. We have a solid structure. The only thing is that we don't have a structure that's like a ZANU-PF one. And we have a very disruptive and new novel structure that has worked so well. In fact, the fact that we've managed to defeat ZANU-PF in an election against all odds tells you that our structure is solid and intact. It tells you that we have a functional organization. We've done very well. We won 104 declared, but of course with more. We almost had over the majority of members of Parliament, even 2/3. And we're still contesting some of those because there were a lot of shenanigans that were undertaken and done by a group called FAS. But more to that, we also swept in all the urban areas. As we speak, even in a flawed election, we won in 33 out of the 34 local authorities or city councils. So we have 33 mayors out of the 34. ZANU-PF only has one. And that tells you a big thing, that we are a solid movement, but we do not want ZANU to continue to undermine our democracy. They did it in 2018. They want to repeat that same tactic. This time, we will not allow them. And this is why we have engaged in what we are calling a strategic disengagement for a period of time until the issues are resolved. If this anomaly is not resolved, we are going to go into a gear up.
So what does that gear up look like?
Oh, definitely there's going to be a full-blown constitutional crisis arising out of the capture of key institutions like Parliament by ZANU-PF. We have had a capture of most of the key institutions. We have challenges around the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission itself, which we are pushing for its disbandment because of failure to run the election, the violation of the Constitution, the violation of the Electoral Act, and the violation of statutes and protocols that run, elections in the region, SADC guidelines, even the AU statute. So Parliament, the way Parliament has behaved, if you look at the violence that took place yesterday, it tells you that Zimbabwe is a country that is in a deep crisis, and that must be corrected through a political settlement, through political dialogue on the key issues.
Pardon me for coming in there. There are some, though, who are saying that you wrote a letter, saying that the recalling of people must be done only via your office and not the office of the SG of the party. Others are saying that you are sidelining politically experienced leaders, for example, like Tendai Biti, and saying that if this is true, it might just be a dictatorship that you're also running in the CCC. How do you respond?
Well, I must say that we have a confusion here. Mr. Biti was in the MDC Alliance as vice president. We now have the CCC. Mr. Biti is a member of CCC. He was a member of Parliament, but now we have a new arrangement, which is CCC, and in CCC we don't have a Secretary General's post. Mr. Biti is not a Secretary General; he's just a member. And I don't know why people want Mr. Biti to be the one who is writing to Parliament when he's just a former member of Parliament from Harare East. There's now a new member of Parliament. And so all those things, I don't know where they're coming from. We don't have the office of Secretary General. We have the office of the coordinator and the chief of staff who are doing that responsibility to make sure that there's coordination with the external world.
We are out of time, but I'm going to ask you very briefly to bring us up to speed with what you're doing about the situation around Job Sekala. Of course, lots of concern about his health and what has been going on there.
Well, we're extremely worried. In fact, we have knocked at all the relevant doors within Zimbabwe nationally and also across the region in SADC to try and get international solidarity to the release of all political prisoners. There's Mr. Job Sekala, the lawyer and the former member of Parliament, but there's also Gary Vume, who is the head of his own political party, and MRP, some activists from another political party in Zimbabwe. We have been pushing for their release. We continue to push for their release. In fact, our issue is that they must be released immediately, particularly on grounds of health, especially for Job Sekala, whom we understand is not feeling well. I, for one, have been banned from visiting him at Chikurubi, just to dramatize the kind of challenges that we have. I'm supposed to visit him as a leader, as a colleague, but I have not been allowed by the authorities in Zimbabwe. Again, a demonstration of the crisis of governance and the deficit of good governance that we have as a problem in Zimbabwe.